Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, which means it's time for another episode of Salty Saturdays, talking about Star Trek and the Orville. And trigger warning, there is no talk of Obi-Wan on this show anymore. He who shall not be named. I'm Matthew Kadish, frustrated producer of the Salty Nerd Podcast. Welcome, everyone in chat. Thank you all for joining us this morning. And with me, as always, is our expert panel, Matt Vader 74. How you doing this morning?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us.
Telling the chat that are trolling us that they can be as wrong as well. So, you know.
And of course, Danny, the Dork Knight LD. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Great. Looking good. Sans mustache. Still think you should grow that back.
Oh, I will be. Don't you worry. It's next week when you see me, it'll be there.
Yeah. Tell Cece to love facial hair.
Yeah, I know.
All he has to do is think really hard and go. It'll just go, and it'll pop out on his upper lip.
And of course, returning triumphantly to Salty Saturdays is Brian from the Popcast. Took last week
What's
off.
up, everybody?
And he's on time.
And he's on time for once, yes.
That's because our video release was pushed to Tuesday. That's why.
And for those of you wondering where Salty Trekker is, he is at a Comic-Con with his son for his son's birthday, so he wasn't able to join us today. But he is here in spirit, and he sent us a video that's going to be kind of talking about his thoughts for the two episodes we're going to be talking about today. So we got a lot of stuff to cover, but first, because Brian wasn't here last week, I wanted to get his take on Memento Mori, which is the fourth episode with of Strange New Worlds with the Gorn and the Pike maneuver and all that good stuff. So Brian, what did you think of the fourth episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds?
Oh, well, so first off, thank you for allowing me to comment on this episode, because while there were some very cool stuff that happened, ultimately I can't get over the fact that we didn't see the goddamn Gorn. I can't handle that.
Oh wow,
really?
we actually liked that.
Yeah, I thought that was the best part of the episodes. We never got to see them.
Yeah,
Shane liked it too. And you know what? When I first watched it, I was like, "Oh, I like this." And the longer time went on, I realized we were robbed. We didn't get to see the Gorn, and it's not cool. But Shane had a good point. He said, we will see the Gorn, and this episode was a good start to that, because it also was more terrifying in the fact that we couldn't see these monsters as what they're painting out to be. But I still want to see the Gorn.
I liked how it was kind of a take on one of my favorite Star Trek episodes, which is Balance of Terror.
Balance of Terror.
And it was actually very consistent with the episode that the Gorn first showed up in, which was the Arena. So yeah, like I really liked the episode 4 a lot, and I watched your review of it, and I thought you guys made some really good points on there. But so overall, you liked it?
Overall, I liked it. Yeah, I just I was disappointed, but you know what? I think Shane's right, and I think we'll eventually see the Gorn. And you know, as long as we see, if we don't see the Gorn at all this season, it's gonna be upsetting for me.
Really?
Because
I don't know. It wouldn't be upsetting to me.
Yeah,
they've hyped up the Gorn. We have to see what they look like.
Well, yeah, but
Brian, I don't know if you saw my theory from the previous episode that we did of Salty Saturdays, but I have a theory that instead of seeing the Gorn, what's going to happen is that we're going to find out that Lon's brother was captured by the Gorn, and because he's a descendant of Khan Noonien Singh, who conquered a third of the planet Earth, he's going to learn the Gorn's tactics, and he's going to become like the big bad that Pike is going to have to fight against, and Lon's loyalties are going to be torn against like her Federation loyalties and her loyalties to her brother, who is basically the guy leading the Gorn against the Federation. That's my theory.
I love your theory, man. You got to stop writing better stuff than they do, though.
I got to be honest. I love that, because I think that dude's creepy smile. Yeah, I'm serious. Like, everyone's like, "Oh, it was a regular smile." I'm like, no, there was something sinister about that. Like, he was always like,
Brian's writing the script right now for their next theory video.
He's gonna be Khan 2.0. I guarantee it. And by the way, everyone, today is the 40th anniversary of the release of Wrath of Khan, Star Trek II.
Yeah,
one of 2 movies that Matt Vader has ever cried at.
I still cry when I watch that scene, and I seen it 100 times probably. I do want to say, William Devine, if I say your name right, I completely agree with that, buddy. He says go full Jaws and only show the Gorn in the big final showdown. I think that's a great idea.
All right, Andre, we'll talk about that at the end of the episode if we have time. So real quick, before we get into it, I just want to acknowledge all of our friends in the chat. Lunar Girl, as always, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Anima Confusa, our resident trivia champion. She's gearing up to kick Alex's ass in trivia, coming up soon for Firefly. Anthony Mark, good to see you, sir. Always appreciated. Commander Cello, I'm just going to butcher that name. Thank you for being here, sir. Full Metal Smile, hail. Good to see you. Gavin Blackburn, Keely Chow, Michael Strathmore. Thank you all for being here. Professor Brainy Specs. Good to see you, Professor. Always a pleasure to have you in the chat. And Darth Maul, Orville Nation. Thank you all for being here. Mariki de Cruyff, however you pronounce that. Rogue Disney, Danny's mom, PJO, Penny J, Keely Chow, Andre Enrico, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you joining us in the chat for these live streams. It's always wonderful
hit that thumbs
to
up
see
button.
our community come out for these discussions. And Matt Vader 74, I know you know this, but CBS upped our paycheck this week, so we're going to have to shill extra hard for Strange New Worlds this week.
Yeah, dude.
So let's talk about.
I put that down payment down on that Lexus, or I mean that Tesla.
Tesla,
I'm going to get like 4 years from now. So
yeah, I'm getting a Gorn themed Tesla.
Yeah. So let's talk about Spock Amok, which is episode 5 of Strange New Worlds. And a while back, we actually covered like a little news story about this, about how the showrunner was talking about how this was more of a kind of departure from the standard formula, where it was meant to be more comedic and a little bit more lighthearted, almost like a romantic comedy type thing. And we were kind of skeptical about that going in. It wasn't quite what I had in mind after reading that article. But I gotta say that this episode, more than anything, was just wonderful. Like, I loved it. It's not perfect. Like, you could still nitpick some stuff in this episode, but like overall, like when the episode was over, I just felt so good because it was like a strong character-centric episode. It was lighthearted. It was fun. You really got to learn more about a lot of these characters. We got to see Pike do his thing. We got intergalactic politics. We got a good message. We got like relationship stuff. Like, there was just so much about this episode that as I was watching it, I was like, I don't want to like this. I don't want to like this, but I do, and I want more of it. Mm-hmm. And like by the time the episode was over, I was just like, man, like I felt so good because it felt like that was not only a good Star Trek episode, but it was just a good episode of TV.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my God, give me more of that. Like, this is what I want from a Star Trek show. And I couldn't help myself. I went on Twitter. I put in like a 4 or 5 tweet thread, and I was just praising this episode for how good it was. And I can understand that there are people out there who still hate Kurtzman and like still feel betrayed by like the Trek we've gotten. But I feel like Strange New Worlds, more than anything, has been course correcting to the point where we get an episode like this, and it wasn't like an action-packed episode. It didn't have like a whole lot of like the universe is ending and we got to solve the problem, we got to save the day. It was just like people like doing like their daily lives and relationship struggles and like all types of stuff. I loved it personally.
It felt very classic Trek, didn't it?
It really did. Matt Vader, what did you think of this episode?
I'm right there with you, man. I don't know if I liked it quite as much as you're gushing about it, but I did. I felt very I felt like it was a really good episode. I enjoyed the character building. I enjoyed the fact that it wasn't a super heavy episode, but that we got to do a lot of really fun stuff. I like the body swapping stuff. I thought that was really kind of fun and interesting. It's just like, it's like you have 2 young Vulcans fucking around with Vulcan, superpowers, and they screwed it up. It's like, oh man, the chant doesn't work. What are we gonna do? That kind of thing. And it was just, I found it amusing, and it was fun, and it was lighthearted, and I enjoyed it. I liked the relationship building with the other characters. I like the Starship Bingo kind of stuff. I think was that correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they took that from, was it a Lower Decks thing, Brian? Did you?
Yeah, I think it was actually introduced before Lower Decks, but Lower Decks definitely brought it back into the zeitgeist.
Yeah, I just stuff like that kind of made me happy, the show's starting to kind of piss me off a little bit because I'm finding it hard to find things to cry about with this show. And there's too many people out there that aren't giving this show a shot simply because I hate things, blah blah blah. This show sucks because it's Star Trek and all new Star Trek is bullshit. Blah blah blah.
But who are you and where is Matt Vader? What have you done?
Yeah, I know, man. He's coming later in the show, okay? But this show, I feel like they're really making some strides and some effort to try to win back some of the fans here. And 5 episodes in, they're 5 for 5. And if you're not on board, then I guess there's no hope for you. Whatever.
So I know that there's a lot of talk about Pike's hair, but I love the fact that they brought back the William Shatner green uniform shirt in this episode.
I mentioned
Danny. Danny, what do you think of Spock Amok?
Every single week I say that this is my favorite episode. I mean, like, they just not only is it 5 for 5, but it just gets, in my opinion, each episode is better than the previous one. And I love the callback to the Amok Time music that they used in Spock's dream. That was so nice. And I love the whole how butthurt number 1 got over where Fun Goes to Die nickname and stuff. And I I'm sure we'll talk about specifics later. I need to get one of these CBS checks because I think I liked it more than Vader, but I love this episode. It was fun, and I watch it. I've watched it 3 times already. Not even for this show, just because I really enjoyed it. And I know some people like Professor Brainy Specs are gonna bitch about the continuity, but man, like I've said all along, I suspend my disbelief. I pretend in my mind that this is a reboot, and I hope that I hope that it is. I really do, because yeah, thank you. See, just makes me feel better. All warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum.
Please watch our video on Tuesday. We explain it in great detail.
Okay. Shameless plug there for the podcast.
I'm sorry, but what you're saying right now is so, it is. They just didn't say anything about it yet.
Yeah.
The evidence is so clear.
Cool.
Yes. Danny?
No, I'm good. Let's pass it on to Brian.
Well, I mean, we do have a super chat.
Oh, super chat.
All right. Gavin Blackburn for £2. Thank you, sir. This episode could have gone awry, but it was good. Agreed. So Brian, why don't you give us your overall thoughts of the episode, then we'll go into some specific stuff about it.
Yeah, I'm right there with Danny. It was a fun episode. It was our lowest scored episode of the season so far, but not because it was worse, because there was just less moments to really
Yeah, you guys got to work on that system. I was watching that.
There was less moments to upvote and downvote. In my opinion, it was just a fun. It doesn't mean it was a bad. It was just there was less there. I like everything you said. I especially like T'Pring. I think she's amazing.
Oh, she's hot.
Oh, yeah.
Ridiculous. Jeez.
Okay.
Yeah, I literally opened up our review with upvote immediately because T'Pring's in this episode. But yeah, in Starship Bingo, Enterprise Bingo, whatever, it was great. I liked seeing we've heard that concept before, but we never really understood what it was, and they actually went through and did the bingo, which I thought was cool. And of course, they did the bingo in the most extreme way because it's Una and LNS, right?
Lon.
I can't say our names, so I just say LNS. So because it was those two people, they did it in an extreme way. Although I will criticize the phaser shootout, I believe that the right way to do that would have been for La'an to not set her phaser appropriately and stun Una. That would have been hilarious.
I remember you saying that. Yeah, that would be
hilarious if she gets it off and she falls down and La'an looks at her phaser and goes, "Oh, she's dialed that back."
Let me ask you this, Brian, because I know that originally we were all kind of critical about Ethan Peck's performance as Spock, but when I was watching this episode, I was like, man, like he just, I almost forgot about Leonard Nimoy when I was watching this episode, which I know is sacrilege to a lot of like Star Trek purists out there, but he's doing a really, really great job at embodying Spock. What did you think of him in this episode?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I was complaining about Ethan Peck in Discovery. I complained about him after Discovery. I complained about him between seasons. I've been complaining about Ethan Peck for like 3 years, like consistently. I met the guy at Vegas. He was a dickhead. Didn't like him. Didn't think he was good Spock. He was too emotional. Didn't fit the part. He was like just a skinny little twerp that wasn't going to be able to ever pull off Spock. And then watching this season, and I was wrong. I gotta say, I was totally wrong. Aside from that little moment where he just punched the guy, that was excessive. I mean, every episode he has embodied Spock. First off, he's swole as hell. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
he's ripped.
His name should be Ethan Pex.
Ethan Pex. But his responses and the writing is obviously good, but also his take on it, his emotion and the way he like slightly raises his eyebrows. He is really impersonating Leonard Nimoy Spock.
He's nailing it. I love his cadence. Yeah. I love it, the way he sounds.
And I really like that they revealed in this episode why he's so dedicated to Starfleet. And it's that basically on Vulcan, like they always rejected him because he was half human. And in Starfleet, they accept him for who he is. And I was like, you know what? That's great character motivation. That explains why he's willing to basically, kind of like set T'Pring aside and go off on these like Starfleet missions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was really good. We got one more super chat. Orville Nation for $5. Great panel, guys. Applause, except for that Brian fellow.
Yeah.
Brian always ruins everything, doesn't he?
I ruin everything.
Ruined it.
So real quick on the punching thing, I have a theory that I think he overreacted because he has all the female. It's not even a joke. It's the female hormones. He's not used to those hormones. You know what I mean?
Because I was going to say you criticized it for punching, but it wasn't. It was the T'Pring. I mean, it was him inside T'Pring, so it wasn't Pitt, the actor. Ethan.
Yeah, so I think that he was having a more difficult time dealing with his emotions, probably because the different hormones.
I was going to say I feel like he's doing a really good job at relaying the fact that this is a very young Spock.
Yeah,
who is still very much struggling with his emotional human side versus his logical Vulcan side, which is kind of that's his whole theme through his entire, lifespan, as far as I'm concerned. It's just one of those things. And him having more issues with it as he's very much younger here, I find very interesting. And it's kind of a cool thing that they can explore throughout this series. You know what I mean? And I also feel like somewhere between when they did the Discovery stuff and they started this show, I feel like Ethan Peck probably went back and studied the character a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? He to try to kind of get into Spock a little bit.
His performance
is I think you can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's way better than it was in Discovery. Yeah.
So I want to highlight a quick chat from Professor Brainy Specs, who says, "I can't believe you are all defending this garbage that flagrantly disregards continuity." Professor's not alone in feeling this way. I just want to say that like everyone out there who doesn't like this stuff is completely justified in not liking it because of the track record and like even though my panelists believe that this is a reboot. They've never come out and said it was a reboot, so that's all like headcanon in my opinion. If it's a reboot, they should specifically state it's a reboot, and then that would fix everything. But they haven't, so there are continuity issues here. There are canon issues. So Professor, I totally 100% agree with you that like it's disrespectful for them to keep on going along these lines, but I feel like it's entertaining enough for me that I'm willing to kind of put that aside, because they're capturing the spirit of what Star Trek is, in my opinion. And I'm actually enjoying it. Whereas like when I was watching Picard or Discovery, it was painful to watch because it was just so bad.
Oh, no, so, like Picard was painful to watch. But I love this comment. Chris Retzlaff says, if this continuity is wrong, then I don't want to be right.
All right, we got
Super chat
from Dennis Wright for $4.99. Thank you, sir. Why is this so different than Discovery and Picard? There's layers to the hijinks. They actually have a theme with all their story threads. Empathy. Well, I mean, like another thing is like it actually has good writing for once, and they're actually like kind of respecting the characters, and they're not trying to push an agenda, with these stories. Like it's just a straight up entertainment type thing, and I think it's great. So let's dive into some of the specifics of this episode that I want to
real
talk
quick.
So,
Matt, can I say I know all the names of all the characters in this show.
Yeah,
I still don't know a single name of a single character on the bridge of the Discovery.
100%.
Well, Burnham.
Oh, Burnham. Aside from Burnham and
Saru,
I don't know anyone
one.
else.
Yeah, name one.
So a big part of the reason why the show is good is because the characters are likable.
So the Discovery crew is angry helmsman, angry pilot, gay guy number 1, gay guy number 2,
non-binary number 1,
alien
cyborg
dude,
lady,
trans person number 1 and number 2, and fat redheaded chick, and then the rest of them. So
and or a guy in the back, who knows? Yeah. Don't assume their gender.
It's for real. It's ridiculous.
All the characters in STD were bad, but getting to the initial kind of like, remember when they did those character reveals for Strange New Worlds, where it was just like short trailers kind of introducing everyone. Yeah. And the one I was most worried about was Ortega's, with her dumb haircut and stuff like that. But it's kind of funny because over the course of these 5 episodes, like her role is just kind of like show up, say something that the audience is thinking, and then fuck off. Yeah. And she does it really, really well. And then like in this episode, when T'Pring, who's actually Spock, comes and kind of talks to Nurse Chapel, and Ortega's is just like, have fun, and like she fucks off. like she's quickly becoming one of my favorite characters, because like she's just like especially in the last episode whenever Pike had like this crazy idea, and she's just like, oh, okay, I don't know. What do you guys think of Ortega's? Because I'm really digging her. Matt,
I don't. I like her, but I don't feel like we've gotten a lot of her yet to where I really can form a real valid opinion so far.
I kind of hope we don't get a lot of her. Like, I hope she just kind of stays as that like kind of secondary character who just shows up.
She's kind of like Sulu and Chekhov kind of wrapped into one. You know what I mean? Where they were on the show, but they weren't always on the show, I guess. So, but yeah, she's fine so far. I mean, her haircut's dumb, but whatever. I don't really care about the haircut. And she is what she is, and so far so good. I'm fine with her. So yeah.
Danny, what do you think of Ortega so far?
You actually kind of took the words right out of my mouth, man. Like she's wasn't really into her at first, and she's been growing on me. And then like last week, you and I talked about, I think you and I really enjoyed her interactions with Pike in the in the scene on the bridge where like you were saying, she's like, okay, like whatever you say, and then but this week I thought it was like it was funny when T'Pring, well, it's Spock, but they don't know that. So T'Pring walks up to Chapel and Ortega's, and Ortega's is like, good luck. He just like walks off. I thought it was funny. I really hope, I feel like because of the format of the show, we probably will get like, lieutenant or whatever her rank is, like navigator's log thing or whatever. I just hope they don't do the like even though I've kind of defended the whole everybody's got trauma, because I've always said, pressure creates, diamonds from coal or whatever. And these are the elite of Starfleet. So it makes sense. I really do want her character to not have, some kind of traumatic backstory if they do go into her. I really do love how snarky and quirky and kind of lighthearted she is. And she and I thought it was interesting. They revealed Chapel is apparently a hedonist. I wouldn't go out and I wouldn't call her gay or bisexual because she was very adamant. Was that one time?
Yeah, we'll get to Chapel in a minute.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
No, but Ortegas was great. The one glaring thing for me, if I can steal something from Brian, my only downvote is Hemmer wasn't in this episode at all. I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
Well, all that makeup costs money.
Yeah.
Ortega is
Uhura wasn't in the. Well, yeah, she was.
She was. She was in 2 scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. I actually like that she didn't get a lot of focus here, because the last few episodes, I feel like the focus has been a little heavy on Uhura. Ortega she was one of the first characters that I was worried about the most. So I was worried about Spock the most because I actually care about that character. And my second biggest worry was Ortega with her, honestly, stupid haircut. And I'm like, it's just a bad haircut. So I'm like, okay, this chick, she's clearly, with the current way Star Trek is going, she is probably going to be, some kind of someone that celebrates this current month we're in, and it's going to be something along those lines.
Social justice insert.
Yeah, it's going to be the check mark character.
Well, you know what? No, I disagree. And I'm not saying she's not going to come out as like gay or non-binary or whatever. But
let me finish though, because I thought that it was going to be heavy-handed like that, and that's not the case.
Okay.
She's lighthearted. She's fun. We don't know much about her yet, but my at first I thought she was going to come out the gate an angry checkmark character, and that's not at all what she is. So it doesn't matter what her orientation is in the show at this point.
Right. Well, given the past that we've had, we had every right to expect that to be what her character was going to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's kind of cool that even if that does happen,
it doesn't matter because that's a side note to her character.
Right.
That's not her entire identity, which is what other
if they devote an entire episode to it, and she's being all repressed and stuff and whatever, then it's like, okay, then it'll be a miss. But
it'd be hilarious if they subverted expectations and made her really into dudes.
Right. Super Chad.
Fluffy Panda for $5. It's easy to enjoy this show, especially after crap-filled sandwiches like STD, P Card, and Jar Jar Trek 2 and 3, Lower Decks, which kind of worries me.
Imagine if we get an episode where they're on the transporter deck and she's like, hey, listen, Chief, meet me in my quarters later on. Don't be late or I'll find you.
She loves
she's like hyper aggressive heterosexual.
Well, I think Kyle might be gay, the transporter chief.
Oh yeah, he's definitely gay.
Bro, he's just a slight build. He just looks like a 12-year-old.
No. Did you see last episode where like he was making bedroom eyes at that one dude who was like walking down the hallway,
sucked it out of
died.
space.
Yeah. I didn't notice it. That's good. I'm glad. I'm glad it's subtle stuff, dude. Like you don't got.
Well, exactly. That's like
hammers over the head with it, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Kyle to show up in one of those like next gen skiffs. Like he's the one who pioneers them.
Yeah.
yeah. And it has like the nipples cut out.
Yeah. I will say that the variety in Starfleet uniforms in this show is quite interesting to me. Like everyone has like a kind of like a different style of uniform that they're wearing. It's not very
well, I like it's
consistent.
it's kind of a callback to TOS in a way. I mean, like especially Pike's green. I mean, that was we've never seen Pike wear that outfit before.
Well, I mean that was straight up from Shatner, which was great. I love the new take on it. Yeah. Real quick, for JS Pena, I don't know if I pronounced that right.
Pena.
This coming Friday will be Killer Clowns, so you can check that out when it's released. All right, so we talked about Ortegas. Now I want to talk about Nurse Chapel, because we got some interesting insight into her this episode, but we also got some interesting setup with her love triangle with Spock and T'Pring that they seem to be forming. So I wanted to get your guys' take on this. Matt Vader, what did you think of Nurse Chapel's kind of like hit 'em and quit 'em philosophy and her setup with Spock?
Nothing wrong with the old hit 'em and quit 'em strategy. I can appreciate that. I don't know. She was kind of thirsty for Spock in the original series, right? Or
yeah.
It's been so long since I watched the original.
Yeah, she was simping for Spock in the original series.
So I guess it makes sense. So yeah, I don't have any problem with it. I don't know. You always hit me with these questions I'm not even mentally at all prepared for. But no, I liked it. I can see some stuff set up. I mean, we all know where T'Pring's going. She's a cheating hoe. So, it is what it is. As long as they keep the continuity sort of right, then I'm completely okay with it. So it is what it is. Fine. Go ahead,
real quick. Danny, I do want to hear your thoughts, but I actually want to go to Brian first, because Brian's been the biggest advocate for the Pornhub category of Nurse Chapel. So I want to hear, what does he think about her kind of casual sex type of philosophy and the setup here with her and Spock?
Well, first off, clearly Chapel knows how to party. Okay,
clearly, yeah.
Firstly, and if they set up a little free action between Ethan Pex and To Bring It On, I'm down. Sounds good to me, bro. I mean, I like this with Chapel. I also like that they didn't they didn't beat your head over with it. She just mentioned in passing that she hooked up with some chick, but she's clearly into dudes. That's fine. I mean, she's a free spirit. That's great. She's young, she's single, she's on the flagship ship. And she ain't trying to be tied down by no man, especially the super cringy SNL actor that looked like that guy. It wasn't him, though.
But his poetry was good.
Yeah, it's so great. You're fire. I'm fire. She's like, oh, okay. So I thought I was just swiping right. This seems like a lot more. I see a friend over there needs some help. Yeah. No, I like it, man. I like it a lot. And I think it adds the character, and you can do a lot with Chapel, because we don't. It was a TOS character, but we don't know much about her.
She's very undeveloped for an old school character.
So as long as you don't completely and totally completely change, there's not much you can change, honestly. They got her look right, and there you go. You get her look right, and from there you can pretty much do whatever you want.
All right, Danny, what did you think of the sex fiend Nurse Chapel going around with her hedonistic lifestyle and kind of flirting with Spock through backdoor channels of being the advisor and friend?
So I love how they're planting these seeds, because we know that Chapel has a thing for, or eventually, in the original series, is always kind of she brings him that soup when he freaks out and throws it at her in the hallway. I think that's actually in Amok Time, right? Look, she's a kindred spirit. What can I say? In my youth, I was kind of a hedonist as well. I like to, I like to get around with no strings attached, so I can respect that. But I really do like the seeds that they're planting. It's not too over the top. It's not too it's just very subtle stuff with Spock, which I liked a lot. I think she's easy on the eyes. So
definitely.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that is interesting is how they're setting up this love triangle between Spock, T'Pring, and Chapel, and this was kind of like the first shot across the bow for that. Go ahead, Danny.
Oh, I did. That did remind me. So I did want to say something to what Vader was saying earlier. As far as T'Pring goes, I actually like what they're doing with her, because it makes her actions in Amok Time a little bit more justified or understandable. Understandable, is that a word, or whatever? I get now why she would be I gave this guy all these years. I did all, I gave him all these chances, and he kept screwing them up.
And he just hung out on that ship the whole time, right?
Yeah, So I actually like, I do like how they're building this character up more. From what I've read, like, we're going to see more of her, which I know is going to make people like Professor Brainy Speck's heads explode, because Spock said he hadn't seen her since he was a kid or whatever. But I don't care. I'm digging it. I love it. I'm digging it all. So yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So this whole thing with the love triangle thing. So I think that they're definitely setting up T'Pring's eventual like cheating on Spock, because like there's going to be some kind of complication. They kind of hinted at that here, where Spock as T'Pring comes to see Nurse Chapel, and Nurse Chapel and Ortega's instantly think like, oh, like this bitch is going to throw down because they marriage eyes at her man.
Yeah.
Thing. So like that, the space seed has been planted, as one of our, as Gavin Blackburn put it.
Nice.
So like I loved everything with like Nurse Chapel, Ortega's, and like the whole kind of like relationship hijinks that were going on this episode. And so like in keeping with that, let's talk about T'Pring and Spock, because part of the zaniness of this episode was they were trying to do like a Vulcan soul connection thing.
Ooh, yeah, I didn't like that.
Somehow it got screwed up, and they ended up body swapping for the rest of the episode. And I thought that was like a very cute kind of like thing that they didn't really utilize as well as they could have, but it was still kind of fun to get to see like Vulcan hijinks, and the fact that like when Pike first shows up, they try to go with it for a bit, and then they're just like, this doesn't make any sense, we're just going to tell them. And so like I could appreciate that. Matt Vader 74, what did you think of the body swapping thing with Spock and T'Pring?
I thought it was fun. I also thought it was kind of terrifying at the same time. I can't even imagine doing like a brain body swap with my wife. That would be just absolutely terrifying to me. So that's some deep relationship building right there. If you got the stones to be able to do that, man,
she'd divorce me instantly.
I mean, could you imagine doing that with Jude? No, it would just like it would be crazy, right?
But I think
those crazy Vulcans, man. That's some deep stuff right there.
I think I speak for Brian, where if I body swap with T'Pring, I just get naked and start like.
Oh yeah,
that's what I was going to say. Like when you just stand in front of a mirror, like the whole time.
I need a minute. In fact, I just need the afternoon. Okay, I'm really feeling some mental stress. I'll come back later.
Yeah.
Where's Nurse Chapel? Does she want to go on a date and get drunk?
Yeah.
T'Pring to Nurse Chapel. Oh.
Nurse Chapel's into it. So anyway, go ahead, Matt.
It's just one of those things. I'm trying to remember if we've seen this before in Star Trek with the body swap from the Vulcan thing. I don't think we have, but it was an interesting thing, and I'm kind of curious what other superpowers Vulcans have now with things. So I don't know.
They proved in Discovery that they can mentally communicate across light years worth of space.
God, don't remind me of that.
I'm glad I stopped watching Discovery with garbage like that.
Well, that was the first episode, Danny.
But the short,
I guess
short
I wiped
answer,
it from my memory.
The short answer for me was is fun, and I liked it, and I thought it was kind of cool. So yeah,
you guys are gonna dislike me here because while I liked the episode and I thought that whole thing was fun, I didn't like it for Star Trek. I don't. It's okay to subtly add and enhance Vulcans and Spock is great. Like add more to things to them that enhances what we already know. But this is a very big thing. It's very, very big. It at some point, I feel like it should have been mentioned in canon at some point over the last 50, 60 years. And it seems ultra dangerous and maybe not responsible at all. They should, and I said it in my review, they should have been the soul sharing should have been like a common practice that we didn't know about, maybe because it was boring. But this body swap thing happened because of something with the aliens and their ability to be empathic. It should have been some external force that uniquely caused that, and it wouldn't have, it would have had the same outcome, but it wouldn't have pissed off all my friends over here in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
So real quick, before we get to you, Danny, I just want to highlight a comment. Michael Strathmore says, "Hey, gang, do you remember when they swapped bodies and immediately called Mbenga for help and the issue was solved within 5 minutes?" Yeah, me neither. Well, Mbenga was on shore leave, and they did go see Nurse Chapel as soon as they could. And she eventually tracked down Mbenga to come and do that because he was out fly fishing, I think. So he was.
Yeah.
It was hard.
I didn't have a problem with that part.
I feel like they just because like basically Spock immediately had to go into the negotiations, and then T'Pring got called off for her job. So like I felt like there was justification within the story that they couldn't immediately fix this, and eventually they did. That's another thing that kind of bothers me about Strange New Worlds is like their solutions to the episode's problems seem to come way too easy to them. It's like they'll like cut away and then they'll cut back and be like, "Oh, we fixed that," type thing. So that's probably my only criticism about the episode was like the fix was a little bit too easy. But Danny, let me hear your thoughts about the whole body swap thing.
So I would almost disagree with Brian's assertion that this is a new power. I mean, first of all, Spock was able to implant his Katra into McCoy, who is a human. And McCoy carried that, and that's not even a swap. And they actually put in a line of dialogue where Spock mentions something to do with emotions is what screwed it up. So it was the fact that he had some type of an emotional reaction because of his half-human side that screwed this up, and his wife, the Freaky Friday situation happened because this was supposed to be more like basically like a really intense mind meld where they just are both like, temporarily during this chant and during this period of time. Like all of it seemed very Vulcan, very, very believable to me. I had no problem with any of that. And then the way that they explained it that like, oh, well, we messed this up, because of an emotional thing. It was like, just it all tracked with me. I thought it all
and Danny, the funny part about that scene is like when Spock brings it up and T'Pring's reaction, it's almost like when a husband's like, "Hey, can we try some BDSM in the bedroom tonight?" And the wife's just like, "Oh, I don't know about that, but okay." It was almost like Spock was revealing a kink that he wanted to try. And
right.
She was just like, "Oh, I'll go along with it if that's what you want."
Oh, right. You want to do butt stuff funny. Again? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what the problem is, bro? Is it was too easy. And if that can happen because of a bad, some bad emotions, then you would think that kind of a practice would probably be something that wasn't common. And the Contra thing required extensive effort, and they had to go to a certain place, and there was a whole ceremony involved.
Well, to pull the Contra out of McCoy, whereas this was just supposed to be a temporary, sharing of the souls or swapping of the Contra soul, whichever word, it's the same thing. So I don't know. I mean, like this can be something we, agree to disagree on. But I thought it was a really. We've never seen a Freaky Friday in Star Trek before. I thought it was kind of cool.
I feel like this is one of those topics that can probably be talked about in depth with really hardcore Star Trek nerds for hours upon hours about Vulcan philosophy and superpowers. But
true,
I don't know. It's just.
But I will say that I agree with Brian that this wasn't very well explained. Like the setup just wasn't there for it.
I agree.
If it had been like a little bit more justified, I think that a lot of those issues would be. I personally didn't have an issue with it because I'm just like, oh, hijinks, whatever. But we got 2 super chats we need to get to.
Super chat.
R to the Icky for $4.99. I hope you all are having a great weekend. Absolutely amazing interview with Adam Baldwin. Folks in the chat, please go watch it if you haven't already. Yes, our Adam Baldwin interview dropped on Wednesday, and that was a really fun interview. He gave Vader the nickname Bad Matt, which I think is going to stick. But it was a lot of fun, and we were really lucky that he agreed to sit down with us and chat about his career. Orville Nation for $10. Danny?
Super chat.
Irresponsible weapons use is no way part of Starfleet officers' training. Impossible guys, and irresponsible use of weapons is actually very serious in today's society. They are trivializing it. Well, this was made way before,
Let me comment on that just really quick. So, Starship Bingo, Cadet Bingo, whatever they call it,
Enterprise Bingo.
The Enterprise Bingo. Well, they do it on other ships too. It's supposed to be a thing that is dangerous. They're breaking rules. They're risking things to I don't really know how to explain it, but
it's lower decks hijinks, bro.
It's dumb cadets and yeomans.
It's dumb shit doing dumb people doing dumb stuff.
Yeah, it's college stuff. Yeah.
And you are correct. Shooting phasers in the hallways of the ship is irresponsible and dumb, but that's also kind of the whole point of the game. Every single one of us has done stupid shit when we were younger. And
I did stupid stuff yesterday.
I do stupid stuff all the time. I come on this show every week, so and subject myself to people in the chat, you calling me shills and stuff. So I get it. I don't really have an issue with it. And it is what it is. So
yeah, I mean part of the whole like bingo type thing is like, number one, it's a competition, right? To kind of break up a lot of the monotony on the ship, but it's also something where the cadets are testing their limits to find out what they're actually capable of. And like I feel like the show's been pretty consistent where like you have Ortega's hazing, Uhura and stuff like that. And this is the type of thing that actually happens on like naval ships, where like people do stuff to kind of like break up the monotony of their duties and things of that nature. And it was, this actually brings us into the last aspect of the show I wanted to talk about, which was Fun's funeral, or Where Fun Goes to Die, which is, number one and Lon. And their whole thing were like, they're very much into the fact that like they like the boring, monotonous kind of like regulation type stuff. And in this episode, they're trying to understand the crew better by going through the bingo and figuring things out. And I actually thought that this was like a really fun little kind of like side story of these two characters, because like we've had Una-centric and Lon-centric episodes up to this point. And we got kind of insights into their backstory, and it was all very serious. But in this episode, it was just kind of like them kind of like being BFFs and having fun and discovering things about themselves. And I really, really liked it, so like I wanted to hear what you guys thought about this little subplot. Matt Vader, what did you think of the Lon number one stuff?
I think I've already kind of said my piece on the whole Starship bingo thing. I liked it. I thought it was a good character building for the two of them. It just kind of got us a little bit more into them. It's like have we forgotten how to have fun? We all kind of go through that phase in life. I'm kind of going through it a little bit right now. Yeah. So it was fine. Like I said, it's like the rest of this episode. I thought it was done fairly well.
Yeah, so, I like the scene where they're talking to each other about like how excited they are to do like boring stuff.
Yeah, I really like the fact that when they did the hall walk with the force field thing, there's the one shield plating that everybody signs. It's like we sign win, we get to this board and we sign this thing. It's like when you go. It's like I remember back when I was in college, there's a lava tube underneath Mount Shasta, and man, that thing is long and it's deep, and it takes a long time to get there. And when you get there, everybody who makes the journey signs the wall, and it just reminded me of that there's things out there that are challenges, and it's meaningful when you succeed at something. So them signing the hull plating, the last remaining hull plate that has never been replaced from all the Enterprise's encounters is kind of fun. I like that part. So
can I say that's a very military thing too.
Yeah.
When I was in the Army, even as far back as boot camp, basic training, in Missouri, Leonardwood, there was this motel that had been there since like the 1920s, right? Mm-hmm. For a long time. It's one of the oldest establishments outside the base. And the reason it was still open was basically because the base existed, and they always had people to stay there. But it's been there for so long that there was this section literally right outside like the really ridiculously old pool, and there's like this concrete area that used to have chairs but no longer, and it's sort of inaccessible, but it is signed by every private that gets their very first leave that gets their very first Fort Lost in the Woods. Yeah, Chris. Okay, I got a fellow boy in here. There's this concrete area right outside the pool area, and it's signed by every private that gets their very first, weekend off after finishing basics. Like you That's actually, awesome. When you finish basic, it's a massive accomplishment because it's hard, right? And when you get to go and you leave for the weekend, and you go to this hotel and you drink and you do all the stuff you want to do, for the 6 months you were in basic. And then one of the things everyone does is they go down to that pool area and they sign their name. And there's all kinds of ridiculous messages on there, but there are thousands. And it's a tradition. And I'm not the only person. My brother Shane, who was in the Navy, which is a lot with Star Trek, had similar traditions. It's a very common tradition.
So, Danny, one of my favorite scenes with like the Una Lon thing is when they played good cop, bad cop with the cadets, and Una was like very like kind of chill and like motherly, and Lon was just like I'm gonna fucking rip your head off, like
making the girl
your career's over. Yeah. What did you think of this subplot?
I thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest with you. The whole thing, because they were just like the fact that La'an, first of all, was like she didn't care. She's like, yeah, sure, I'm where fun comes to die. I don't care. I take my shit seriously. But Una, it really bothered her. It really bothered her. And then it was fun.
She's like, I want to be the cool mom.
Yeah, she was kind of like she's kind of dragging La'an in, like, come on, let's do this. And then they were going to quit doing it. And then I really liked it. And I felt like it did help build not just their relationship, but both of the characters. The good cop, bad cop scene was funny. They get the exact same information. They do, they both get the exact same, both the ensigns or whatever get the exact same punishment. But Una and the one girl are laughing and drinking coffee and having fun, and Lon's making the other girl cry and and question her life decisions and everything. So I thought that was really funny. I do hope we get to talk about the aliens and the because that one scene where they sign the scourge and then they look up and then the ship comes out and then you get that
so cool.
Yeah, and then
with the sail.
Yeah,
so rad.
Yeah,
best part of the episode was the solar ship. So rad.
It was, right? And they had one of those in the movie Star Trek Insurrection, right?
Yeah, they also
Deep Space Nine. I know that
Deep Space Nine is where it was originated in Star Trek canon.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So since Danny brought it up, let's talk about Pike's little moment of glory in this episode, which is, he's negotiating with this alien species that could really help out the Federation with the Klingons and the Romulans, and the alien species, like, they can't figure them out. This is very typical Star Trek. Matt Vader, what did you think of this subplot?
I think you just said it's pretty typical Star Trek stuff. I thought it was fine. I liked how he figured out the little game that they were playing with trying to get into their adversaries' heads a little bit. And he flipped it on him, and it was awesome. Cool. It was a kind of a neat little Pike moment. We learned that he's a pretty intuitive guy, but I think we kind of already we already knew that. Exactly. Yeah. So it was fun. I liked it.
Yeah. Brian, Danny, any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I think Pike, I think it's very important to continually show us why Pike is captain. Like what makes him special? Is it his ability to navigate really well? No. Is it his extreme knowledge of medicine? No. His security? No. What makes him the captain is his ability to sort of understand all of those departments, but his intuition and his gut reaction and his interpersonal ability to communicate and to tie things together is what makes a very good leader. And we're consistently seeing him utilize those very well executed leadership skills. And this was a very important part of it. Like,
yes,
it wasn't Uhura that saved the day, which I love. Uhura didn't step up and be like, oh, I understand their language, Captain. No. It was him observing their interactions with the Tellarites and then himself and the humans and then the Vulcans. And he goes, oh, they just want empathy. They want empathy. So let's give it to them. Let's just be honest. And he won them over with extreme empathy. And it was just Sort of a brilliant way of doing it.
I gotta disagree with you, Brian. The key to Pike's leadership is his hair. It's amazing tall hair.
The hair is wonderful, man. My hair game is off, dude.
I think it's the fact that he oozes machismo personally.
Yeah, he's good. He has his entire methodology was both empathetic and masculine, and I love it.
Yeah, Danny, what were your thoughts on this?
So I just watched for a top secret project. I just watched the Enterprise episode, Babel 1. Oh, I actually watched 3. I watched Babel 1, United, and the A&R.
Great episode. It was a great episode.
Yeah, and so it's a 3-part story arc for those who don't remember, where basically the Tellarites and the Andorians are trying to Archer's taking them to broker some peace, but then we find out that the Romulans are trying to sabotage that. And then the third act or third episode of this arc is where we get the first appearance of the A&R, which is again, Hemmer, who's inexplicably missing from this episode. But anyway, so after watching that and then watching this, because in that first episode, Babel 1, it opens up with Hoshi and Archer kind of arguing. Do you guys remember this episode? They're like,
yeah, I watched it too.
Yeah, okay. So they're like, and you don't get it until when they're done, and she's like, "Oh, you did great," because she was training him on how to talk to the Tellarites, because Tellarites thrive off of that kind of conflict. You know what I mean? And so when Admiral what's his name? Robert April. Yeah, when Admiral April showing the video to Pike and Spock and Uhura of the dude who's not a Tellarite, I instantly, probably because it was so fresh in my mind, I instantly thought of Archer yelling at the Tellarites and stuff like that from that episode. And I really enjoyed that. And then when when that alien guy first meets Pike, and it's like a sweet, he took a second to kind of assess or use his empathetic powers, and then all of a sudden he smiles and he shakes his hand. He's like, "Let's talk," and
let's talk, buddy.
Yeah.
It's such a great.
Let's have a meal.
Yeah, and then Pike's all confused when it doesn't work out, and then the whole thing with Spock, and I loved so much about it. Was so classic Trek in so many ways, and yeah, it's back to Brian's point. I love how they're not telling us; they're showing us Pike is a good captain. They're showing us why he's a good captain.
Also, same reason why Archer was a good captain, and that's a great continuation of that theme.
Yeah.
In that episode you mentioned, we got to see Shran, expertly played by Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
And his relationship with Archer is deepened, and that character becomes one of the greatest probably the greatest character in Enterprise, subjectively speaking, because of Archer's ability to be captain. It was just same thing.
Yeah.
So real quick before we move on, I want to highlight a comment from Michael Strathmore here. He says, the best part of the episode was M'Benga fly fishing. It's a sin that the writers couldn't have found a way for his daughter to join him, though. That would take better writers. I know that ever since it was revealed that M'Benga was kind of using the emergency medical transporter to keep his daughter in stasis, that there have been issues surrounding that. But you got to remember that they established that it's a very fast acting disease. And so the more he takes her out, the quicker it kind of overtakes her, and he's trying to find
metastasizes or whatever.
Yeah. And he's trying to find a cure. So it would make sense that he wouldn't take her out for shore leave. Even though it makes sense that he'd want to spend more time with his daughter, but he's trying to save her life. And so I didn't feel like that was an issue with this.
I agree. Super chat.
JT Gunter, late night with Cap for $2. Guys, I have to head out. Take care, Salty. Well, thanks for stopping in, JT. We really appreciate
it. Man. No, I don't know if you saw my comment, JT, or if you're still in here to hear me, but I wasn't able to join in live, but I did go back and watch it. I gave you a like, a subscribe. I commented on the video. Look forward to catching it live next time, buddy.
So guys, Salty Trekker couldn't be here today, but he did send us a video that kind of explains his take on these 2 episodes we're talking about, which is Strange New Worlds episode 5 and the Orville episode 1. It's about 7 minutes long, so like I want to play the first part of it, which is the Strange New Worlds part, to get his take on it, and then like we'll talk about it, then move on to the Orville.
It's cool that he did that.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go.
No sound. There's no Matt. There's no sound.
There's no sound.
No.
Correct.
Okay. Let me go back.
I'm gonna take this opportunity to refill my coffee. I'm gonna put you guys on speaker. So
Give me some coffee too, bro.
Good idea.
I could have sworn I set this up previously, but let's try this again. Can you guys hear that?
Guys,
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear it.
And I just wanted to give my sense on what happened this week on Strange New World in the Orville, since I can't be there in person.
Oh boy,
celebrating
Mike is hilarious.
his birthday. And starting out with Strange New Worlds. First of all, I think it's interesting that both shows had the hero ship in dry dock through the entirety of the episode for the most part. In Strange New Worlds, I think this was a strength, and quite frankly, in the Orville, I think this was a weakness. But in Strange New Worlds, we had a chance, as the ship was being repaired from the damage taken in the last episode, to basically slow down for a minute and have some good character development for Spock, Una, and La'an, while I'll fully admit the storyline for Chapel was kind of a weak point. And so overall, I found the episode to be fairly enjoyable, and I thought that it was good. I thought the negotiation story, primary story, was a solid one, and I had a good time with the episode as a whole. On the flip side, with Strange New Worlds, I think that...
All right, so when he says Strange New Worlds, he actually means the Orville, and that's the rest of the video. But we haven't gotten to the Orville yet, so that was Salty Trekker's thoughts on Spock Amok, which, perfectly legit. And it is interesting that both these episodes took place in dry dock. So let's get to the Orville New Horizons, episode 1, entitled Electric Sheep, which is a callback to, the original title for Blade Runner, which is Why Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, which I always like it when they throw in those little nods to classic sci-fi stuff. So I'm just going to come out and say it. I was very surprised that they chose this episode to return after 2 years or 3 years off the air and reintroduce everyone to the Orville, especially like behind a paywall, like Hulu and stuff like that. Like, don't get me wrong. A bad episode of the Orville is a lot like a bad slice of pizza. Like it's still pizza. So like, you're going to enjoy it. But overall, like I felt like the first episode back should have been something a little bit more popcorny as opposed to like deep and emotional. And I know that this is something that the Orville does pretty consistently, where they deal with like deep topics and themes and stuff like that in a very kind of like interesting classic Star Trek type of way. But I was like, this is a little bit too dark and too deep for me for a season premiere, which is most likely going to be the final season of the series. So I wanted to get your guys' take on this. Matt Vader, what did you think of Electric Sheep?
Didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I thought it was way too heavy-handed. I kind of feel like the show missed the mark. It wasn't funny. I want funny in my Orville. I'm okay. I'm okay with the lessons. I'm okay with learning lessons about the show and about stuff. But I feel like this thing was all about heavy-handedness and showing off its new big budget. It's like, here we're going to talk about suicide, and look, guys, we have special effects with cool space effects and new ships and stuff. And just thought it was too much. It was very heavy-handed, and it didn't. And I feel like we got way too much of the new character, and we didn't get any Bortus or any at all, hardly, of the characters that we like. And I just thought it was a miss. You know, if this is the first episode that I had ever watched, I probably wouldn't go back. So I just need more.
So Brian, I felt like this episode was very consistent with like what we've gotten from the Orville. Like, you know, they do tackle these things. This was a good character-centric episode. It introduced us to the new character of Charlie. You know, like we got a lot of Isaac development. We got a lot of development with the doctor and her kids. And
Right.
like and you know, it set up kind of like the new situation for the ship in this season. So like I wouldn't say that this is a bad episode. It was just like an episode that I wouldn't have picked for the big return of the series. But you really like this episode, so why don't you give us your take on it?
Yeah. First off, what are they calling you now? Dark Matt?
Bad
Bad Matt. Bad Matt.
Bad Matt. For everyone watching right now, Bad Matt is he's wrong.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Bad Matt's wrong. Yes, there was no fart jokes. Let me call up Tom and ask him where the fart jokes were. But dude, this is look, as much as I love the comedy of the Orville when it first started, it absolutely needed to evolve to continue. You cannot start off as like a pseudo parody of Star Trek and then continue for longer than a season. It's got to find its identity. And there's the pun, right? When Orville actually started to get serious was in what episodes? Identity, part 1 and part 2. And it started to get serious then. It really did. And it's continued that theme. There are still comedy. There is still some levity because it's a Seth MacFarlane written production. However, from Identity part 1 and part 2, it has found its stride, and it's really started to become a show that has levity. However, the serious, the dramatic efforts that are put into place when dealing with sort of these like sensitive topics without beating you over the head with it is expertly crafted.
But I felt like I was beat over the head with it.
Why?
This entire episode was getting beat over the head with everybody's issues with Isaac and his suicide. It was a heavy episode.
Oh,
it absolutely was.
The topic was heavy, but it wasn't heavy.
There was no fun in this episode.
Whoa.
There was one gag.
Listen,
where the dude slept with the spiky chick. That's it.
Matt.
It was 30 seconds in a fucking hour and a half or whatever long episode. It was not enough. There was no balance.
Bro. The topic is serious, but it wasn't a heavy-handed approach to the topic.
It absolutely was.
No. The topic is heavy, but a heavy-handed approach is when you lean into one particular point of view and you push that onto your audience. Mm-hmm. This was not heavy-handed, and it actually showed multiple points of view, and the way they dealt with his, I'm going to say, self-deletion, so that your channel doesn't get instantly demonetized. The way
is that bad word? The S word?
You can't say the S word on YouTube.
Oh my God,
bro.
that's fucking dumb.
You're going to get instantly yellow check marked. I'm sorry. But the way they dealt with his self-deletion was actually very unique because he wasn't self-deleting because of the normal human reasons, right? When a human self-deletes, there's a lot of reasons, I'm sure. But a lot of the time it's like depression, or they feel lost, or they have no purpose. That wasn't his reasoning. He self-deleted out of his sort of pseudo, very unique form of love for his boys and the crew. And he was told by his boys that you should just self-delete because you are not beneficial here. No one likes you. You don't add anything here. So in his mind, he's like, you know what? My boys are correct. In order to alleviate Marcus's pain and stress and the rest of the crew's inefficiencies in dealing with me, it'd be the best course of action is to self-delete. He did it out of love, out of love and respect.
No, I get that.
That's a unique take on a heavy topic, right?
My issue is there was no balance in this episode. It was all heavy stuff. There was very little Seth MacFarlane humor in this thing. And if they want to do an episode like that, I'm fine with that. That's fine. It just seemed like a very strange, like Matt said, it seemed like a very strange way to start this new season after being off the air for so long.
I mean,
there was no Bortus in this thing. I needed some Bortus.
He was in it twice.
Yeah, hold on, guys. So like this did feel like a very special episode of the Orville like after school special type thing. But I want to hear from Danny because Danny has a lot of insight into self-deletion and depression and mental health issues and stuff like that. And I know that this episode probably rang really true with him. So Danny, what was your take on the season premiere of the Orville New Horizons?
So the first thing I want to say is, even though Fluffy Panda kind of stole my thunder, the reason they had to do this episode is because they had to address the Kaylon War. They had to address Isaac being reinstated and how that would affect the crew. And they never did that. I mean, Brian, how many episodes did we have of the Orville in season 2 after 5
episodes?
About 5 episodes. And they never
needed to address it.
It had to be addressed. And while I actually absolutely loved this episode, there's a couple things. So Brian, I think you're anthropomorphizing the Kaylon Isaac. He didn't do it out of love. He did it because, and this is something that's very common. So just to give people a little bit of a background who don't
remember,
know,
I said it like his unique form of love.
Yeah, well, it was not
like human love.
It was from a logical point of view. It's basically, and this is actually very common, and just so people kind of qualify what Kadish was saying about me earlier. So I run a mental health awareness and suicide prevention charity called Nerds Never Say Die, and the or I'm sorry, I said the S word. What are we saying? It says self-deletion. So the issue, yeah, okay. So the topic is very near and dear to my heart, especially because about 30 years ago, I'm a suicide survivor, and the reasoning that I had was I thought the world would be a better place without me. I thought kind of like with It's a Wonderful Life. I used to have the analogy I used to give people is in therapy, I found out I wasn't alone. A lot of people feel this way. It's like I felt like that if the angel came to show me what the world would be like without me in it, like the premise of It's a Wonderful Life, instead of showing me how terrible it is, it would have been great. And so Isaac was looking at it pragmatically. He was looking at it like, the efficiency of the crew will go up. The morale of the crew will go up. Claire's kids, or as you put it, his boys, will feel better. So they were very pragmatic, logical from his point of view. However, from us emotional creatures watching it, you kind of have Brian's point of view. Well, so it's kind of like when Captain Mercer was doing the funeral eulogy, where he was talking about even though Isaac didn't feel like, he was talking about how Isaac grieved with him and he celebrated with him and he cheered with him and all this other stuff. He didn't really do that. We did that for him, and we put that, we even though he didn't have emotions, he got to experience those emotions through us. So it was very, very interesting. It just was very, honestly, I'm surprised. Although they probably would have got accused of being woke, I'm really surprised there wasn't a trigger warning. You jokingly made a trigger warning at the beginning of this because I lost my shit over Obi-Wan last week. But I'm surprised there wasn't a trigger warning because the topic of suicide or self-deletion is really a serious, heavy topic. And I was not expecting that at all, but I didn't have a problem with it. And here's why, because the way they handled it, I thought was, I mean, obviously it was a happy
graceful
ending.
Is the word, bro. It was a graceful handling.
It was really, really, and tasteful is another good word for it.
Tasteful, yeah.
Yes, a very, very tasteful way to handle a very serious subject. And they talk about these things like when Claire's the one who has the realization or the epiphany that he killed himself. He did this. Like, that's what he did. And they're like, why would he do that? And so then there's that whole middle chunk or second act where they're everybody's kind of dealing with it in their own way, and they're talking about it, and they're trying to process it. And it really hit. Like I was telling Brian and Shane the other day, I cried 3 times in this episode, because it was, and I get what Matt Vader's saying, or Bad Matt, that you don't want that, normally you don't want that from the Orville, but I'm
changing your contact on my phone right now to Bad Matt.
It's not that I don't want that from the Orville. I'm perfectly fine with life lessons and heavy topics. It's totally cool. I just feel like there was too much of it. And I wanted, it's like, hey guys, we're back. Let's have a fun episode.
Yeah. This should have been a celebration of the return of the show.
Absolutely.
Can I say real quick though? They had to deal with the Isaac thing because they had to deal with it in last season. They had to deal with it. You can't have this whole thing and then Isaac's just.
They could have dealt with it in the second episode.
Sure,
honestly,
I guess, but I don't know. I really like the way they handled it. So like when I didn't. I mean, for me, it came out of nowhere, and it was like I literally had to pause it because it's it's a tough subject for me. I still go to therapy and stuff to this day, and I highly recommend everyone should go at least once a month, I think. But anyway,
my therapy is every Saturday morning.
Yeah, right. So I had to pause when Isaac was in engineering, I believe it was, and he was doing his little log and explaining like, making this better and this is a bit faster and more efficient, blah blah blah, and then and my regards to the Finn family, and then he zaps himself and he falls over, and then they pan up and they show him, and I'm like, and it hit me like, and I had to pause it, man, because it was just like I didn't, like, the second time I cried I bawled, but like it just hit me and I started like, I didn't want to bawl, so but I was fighting it back, but like I welled up, and I was like,
I got to watch that with Tom Constantino. He streamed it for me, early, and I got to watch it with him, and right when it happened I was like, yo, what the F?
Yeah.
I was like, WTF. He was like, oh yeah,
and then and then later on, as people are trying to process this and handle this, and Claire is trying to be there for her youngest son Ty, I thought that was a beautiful scene, which led into the next, when I sobbed like a baby when Claire sat down at the table and it finally hit her that she still loved him, and then she starts crying. Man, it was like Niagara Falls. I hate seeing beautiful women cry on screen. It gets me every time. Or go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I really loved how they handled it, and because it's sci-fi and you could have a happy ending, they try to give you the little, like you said, you got the spiky chick, so that's your one little dick and fart joke from Seth MacFarlane or whatever.
Her explanation too about self-deletion was a unique take, right?
And I like that they really did. I really felt like they handled this topic very, very, very tastefully, especially with an episode that was dedicated to Norm Macdonald right off the bat.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
What a great opening, dude. Yeah. Start with that. That's great. That's perfect.
Let's get this super chat out of the way really quick.
Oh, okay. Super chat.
Right.
Fluffy Panda for $5. Star Trek DS9 and Babylon 5 dealt with this perfectly. Season 2, Captain Sheridan's first episode, he has to deal with repercussions of the war. Ballsy opening, I will say. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Real quick, so I don't want to linger on this too much because it is kind of a heavy topic, but I want to make it clear this was not a bad episode. Like this was a very good episode. It was not a good season premiere episode. I think that's the issue me and Vader are having with it, is that
Correct.
We wanted something a lot more celebratory. We wanted something that's like, we're back, baby. Like after 3 years of being gone, we've returned triumphantly, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have adventure, and it's going to be awesome. Like the entire opening, Kalon battle scene where you're running through the ship as stuff's exploding. I was like, oh wow, like they're really, starting this off with a bang. And then the rest of the episode is just like, sad. depressing.
Well,
it life lesson, after school special. And I was just like, you know what, like this would have been a good second episode, but like, I wanted something a lot more fun.
And I get what you're saying, and everybody's got their own, like, to me, and I will agree with that. But the problem is then, and you're the writer, how do they handle the Isaac thing? Because they've already reinstated him in the last season. And they kind of screwed the pooch on addressing that. Like how,
like you said, they ignored it for 4 episodes in the previous season. They could have
5
ignored it for one more episode.
Yeah.
In this one, I mean, like, it could have been like they could have showed like a scene where like the crew is very standoff with Isaac, and then in the second episode they get into depth as to why that is. I mean, there's lots of ways you could have handled it, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like it would have been a better start to the season had they chosen a little bit more of a lighthearted episode to start off with.
And I will concede, I'll agree to that. I get that. I totally get that. But this, to me, this was just, I don't know, like at the end. So the third time I cried, which I never finished getting to tell Brian and Shane the other day, was because in real life, you don't get to come back from that decision. If somebody, blows their brains out, they're gone forever. There's no bringing them back. And so at the end, when they're able to bring him back, that was just like, it was, I don't know. I just, like I said, I felt they handled it so well. And then when this is where the third time it got me, when she's talking, having the therapy session with Isaac Clare at the end, and she's explaining to him, and I swear, I think I've even had a therapist tell me this before. It's like, people who do that, they're confusing their present with their future, and they're not thinking about the future. They're not thinking like how does she put it? She said, there's nothing that can't be fixed, in time. Just if you give it enough time and you work on it and you work at it, you can fix damn near anything. There's never a good reason to self-delete. And I like how at first she was emotional about it, and then she broke it down logically to get him to understand.
Was that me?
I don't know. That sounded like,
I think that was you, Brian.
It was that was.
I'm sorry,
Kirk here.
So it's one of my phones has that notification.
Brian to Enterprise. Yeah. There you go.
Anyway, so I really love how they handled that because I was really surprised they didn't put, like, I don't know if you guys saw my tweet. I'm really surprised they didn't have a thing at the end where it was like, the suicide prevention hotline or something, or something like that, because it was, but maybe that would have made it feel even a little too much more
heavy,
after school, for you guys. But I loved how they, like, that is a hard subject to tackle in an entertainment, and I felt like they pulled it off brilliantly.
Yeah. Like, I don't disagree with anything Danny or Brian said about this episode. Like, it was very well handled. It's very consistent with what we've gotten from the Orville in the past, where they tackle some of these like issues in a fun science fiction way. But it just wasn't a good season premiere. That's my big issue.
No,
it wasn't a good season premiere.
I'll agree with that, especially after 3 years. But there's so many variables to consider. When they made, I mean, look at the kid Ty. There's no way he's still that small. They had to have shot this 3 years ago or 2 years ago or something, right? Like, Brian,
I've seen him recently. He's much.
Yeah,
taller.
I mean, like my son, in that picture there, he's shorter than me, and now he's taller than my oldest son. Like who's taller than me in that picture.
I would have much rather they dealt with like all the weird alternate dimension time hopping stuff that they dealt with at the end of the second season in this episode, where I mean, like that would have been. We're playing Monday morning quarterback here for this stuff, but I want to get to Salty Trekker's take on this episode. We can talk about that, then we can go deeper into this episode a little bit more.
He looks like he's blazed out.
Primary story was well enough executed, and the new sets and everything are nice and all that. It was a little confusing to me because there was no acknowledgement of any kind of time passage from the time of the last season, even though it's been 3 years and Finn's children are noticeably older. And so they should have had some kind of acknowledgement of that. And they acted much like the Kalon battle from episode 10 had just happened. Everybody was basically accusing Isaac of being a murderer and a conspirator and just a horrible, horrible person. And the problem here is that there were 4 episodes of the Orville after the Kalon battle, and nobody seemed to have that level of hatred directed at Isaac during those 4 episodes, particularly Finn's older son. And so it really seemed to be kind of confusing. And in fact, if you watch the Orville episode 11, it starts out with the Orville, there's no apparent damage. And in fact, this, made no sense to me at all, because the Orville was almost ripped to shreds in the battle. And yet in the next episode, the Orville's just cruising around like everything's just fine. And Captain Mercer is giving Yaphet an award for bravery. And everybody's just fine. And like the battle never happened, other than Yaphet getting a medal. So I just had a little bit of a problem with this. So the problem is that while it was executed well enough, they made a couple of mistakes here, in my humble opinion. One, the story assumed the characters, which means that there was no reintroduction of the characters. And for the audience, especially after 3 years, if you're trying to attract new fans, the audience didn't really get a feel for who these people were. You really needed to do something like this, especially since this show has a new title, Orville New Horizons. And on Hulu, they are listed separately from Orville. There's Orville and then Orville New Horizons, like it's a sequel show. And on top of that, it's a little confusing on Hulu because New Horizons starts with season 3. And so a lot of people will think that they just missed the first 2 seasons. It doesn't make a lot of sense, the marketing of this show. And then on top of that, the show has some pacing issues. It feels very slow. And I think that the runtime of an hour and 9 minutes is just way too long for this type of show. I think that honestly, it would have been better to be the more traditional 42 to 48 minutes for this type of story. I think that just would have made a lot more sense. But to run it well over an hour when the story was basically a simple character piece about people coming to terms with Isaac, it just lasted way too long, and it felt like it was being dragged out. And then the incident with the Kalon ship, ironically, did in 2 minutes what the prior episode of Strange New Worlds did throughout the entire episode. They basically pulled the Pike maneuver almost exactly, except they just did it in a couple of minutes instead of taking an entire episode to do it, which really showed a lack of tension in the Orville, where in the prior episode of Strange New Worlds, they almost masterfully built tension through the episode as they were trying to survive the onslaught of the Gorn. In this, it just felt like, oh yeah, there's a Kalon. Let's fool them real quick, and we're good. The end. So that's my 2 cents. I'm sure you guys fully disagree with me. And now I've talked too much. Take care.
Lord, forgive me.
So, guys, that was Michael's take on this. Do you agree, disagree? Vader, what did you think?
I think he's right there. I think he's pretty accurate. I agree for the most part, I think. Sure.
What about you, Danny? I saw you shaking your head a couple times.
God. No, I couldn't disagree with him more. If you go back and look, and first of all, he really does. He and I have this ongoing thing where we try to out nerd each other. It is 5 episodes. Brian is correct. I looked it up while I was listening to him. Because the end of Identity Part 2, which is episode 9, is where Mercer makes the plea for Isaac to be reinstated. But you don't see him again. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but do we even see him? We see him like one more time in the next 5 episodes, right? Or something like that. Brian, you're muted. You're muted.
Oh, wait, I muted him because he was making noises.
Oh.
Go ahead, Brian.
Was I? I wasn't. Was I making noises? I'm sorry.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
You were typing and having computer alerts and stuff.
Oh, damn. We barely see him.
Yeah,
he wasn't a threat.
Yeah, so
but we also needed to introduce a new character. You have a new character plus the Orville situation.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, so I'm happy with I love the runtime. In fact, I was watching what's that guy's name? Is it PJ or the dude's got the Orville show?
JP.
I finally just got to meet that guy the other day. I mean virtually, but we got to chat and he says basically that expect 10 mini movies basically.
Yeah.
And he was like in this he's like there are several episodes out of the 10 that are longer than this one even. So if that's one of Salty Trekker's gripes, Michael's not going to be happy, with the future episodes. Me personally, though, I love it. I'm excited. The only gripe I had is I did feel like the special effects looked a little video game-ish in the beginning, and oddly enough, it got better. Once they got away from the space dock, I felt like the special effects got better, but everything at the space dock to me just looked like an Xbox game or something.
I felt the same way about that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
It was done well, but it was just I really thought they were like, "Hey guys, we got a big budget now," blah, and then there was stuff all over the screen, and you're like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
but it was beautiful. Don't get me wrong.
It was, but it just it didn't look like something I do like about Strange New Worlds is their special effects are amazing. And but it has a more textured, grittier, weighted feel to it. I look at it and I don't think of like an Xbox or a PlayStation game.
See, I do think Michael was right about the pacing because a lot of this episode was very slow and it was kind of interspersed with some fun CGI fest type things, but the pacing was just off, which is I think was his thing because a lot of it had to do with the ponderous suicide stuff. But another thing I wanted to point out real quick is just that watching this and then watching Star Trek Strange New Worlds is very cinematic. It feels like very polished and slick and like you're watching a movie. And this still feels like it's got TV lighting and stuff like that. And that to me is a lot more charm than I almost wish Strange New Worlds would kind of dumb down their production design a little bit to make it more TV like.
Yeah, bright and cinematic.
I get it.
Which is what Orville did really well. So Danny, I just want to move along. Can you wrap up your thoughts real quick?
Yeah. I what was I saying? I forgot.
You were rebutting Michael's take on.
He's wrong. He'll have to live with it. That's fine.
All right, Brian, what did you think of Michael's take on this episode?
Yeah, I disagree with him, which is rare. I usually don't disagree with Mike, but I disagree because I don't want. Look. If you only have a certain amount of episodes, and I'm going to say something I've said 15,000 times. If the new format for TV is 8 to 10 episodes, then 40 minutes per episode is not enough time.
No, probably not.
It's just not enough time.
No, think about it. We get 10 episodes that are roughly an hour and a half each-ish, we're basically getting like a full season of like Enterprise back in the day was like 24 to 26 episodes.
Yeah, it's like a real. It's like a traditional season at that time run. And I don't want them to be constrained by this like imaginary time of 46 minutes, 43 minutes. Here's the deal, like that time was when you had to fit the episode in an hour-long network TV, and you had to account for like, 13 commercial breaks and whatever. Right? So like, they would build in like breaks. You would see like it fade out to black and for like a couple seconds, then fade back in. Like when you're binge watching these shows later on, some of the breaks are weird, right?
Yeah,
like,
they are.
It's just like it's stopping in the middle of nowhere, and then the music fades back in, and you're somewhere else. You're like, well, that was done because those episodes of television were built around network TV and having to put ads and commercials in there. When you will no longer have those constraints, when it's purely streaming, then let's not pretend like it's still network television. Make it however long you want to make it. Make it an hour and 10 minutes or an hour and 3 minutes or whatever. Like, take as much time as you need to tell the story. Don't put an imaginary constriction on your art because of old legacy rules.
Justify.
Yeah,
Justify.
I get it.
Yeah.
And I like that. So I hope that we have longer episodes of the Orville. Of course, though, if the pacing gets slow and tiresome, like Obi-Wan, like if it becomes slow like Obi-Wan, then I'll complain. But in my opinion,
say that in here.
The only slow moments for me were the ones with Claire, perhaps. But then again, I love Penny Gerald Johnson so much that I don't really care. Like, I'll watch her.
That reminded me what I was going to say when I got derailed. The pacing thing. The reason I didn't have a problem with it is probably just because of my point of view. I needed that cool off time because of that. Like there were 3 really heavy beats for me personally, and I needed that. Him taking the what's it called, the Pterodon out, or what was it called, the little cool ship? Was it the
Delta Flyer,
the mini Orville?
Yeah. Like
Paragon or Terrigen or something.
Pterodon, I think. So like taking that out, I needed the little I needed Lamar banging a spiky chick. I needed little breaks.
I'm into spikes now, by the way.
Yeah, right. So I sent you that link. I hope you enjoy it.
So
I will.
So let's talk about the new character that was introduced in this episode, Charlie. So first of all, she's super hot. Second of all, she took a page from the Back to the Future book where she's able to think fourth dimensionally, and basically they use her to save Isaac, even though like she hates Isaac in this episode. So like we got some background with her. We got a flashback to show like her past trauma and why she hates Isaac. And we also got to see her, like, her skills as a pilot and her relationship with the crew and all this good stuff. So I actually really liked this character. I thought she was well done. I thought she was interesting. I like that, she's an addition to the cast. I'm looking forward to seeing more from her. What did you guys think of Charlie, Vader?
She's all of those things that you just said. I don't know, man. She doesn't really do a whole lot for me. She's just super girl officer with some attitude, and I don't know, man. I could care less if I ever saw her in another episode of this show. I think they needed somebody to be a bitch to Isaac, and if she's going to be on this show, I hope they develop her way past where she's at right now. So
yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask Brian, what does it mean to think fourth dimensionally?
Yeah, I actually criticized that. So I do like.
Let me look up this link for you.
I looked it up. You can go ahead.
Oh, the Tesseract. Did I tell you that already?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I was talking about the fourth dimensional thing. Yeah, when you say Tesseract, that's when you can like see space and time differently.
Yeah, there's a really good Carl.
But that's not what they were talking about, though. Yeah, you're talking about Madeline Engel's view of the Tesseract, and that's another science fiction author. She wrote A Wrinkle in Time, right? Mm-hmm. And Many Waters, and she sort of pioneered the concept of the Tesseract, which Marvel has completely butchered.
Yeah.
But that's not what they were talking about. I think that it was a very quick way of explaining that she is her mind is special, but not like superpowered special, more like light Asperger's special. And I think you know what I mean? Like, and I think that they too quickly explained that. My criticism was maybe you should, if she's special, if this is like the point of the episode is that she has this ability, she has this like affinity for computer models, right? And computer model predicting, then maybe like build that into her character a little more and not just, oh, she's just this human with this really unique ability. Well, it's not a unique ability that we know of, like make it something that like we're aware of, like, oh, she's a little autistic and she has this thing,
I know what's going to happen to her.
That's the most excited I've seen Vader in a while. Let him talk.
I know her story arc. I know where they're going.
Go.
So like not next episode, but like the 5th or 6th episode of this season, after we get shown how special she is, this interdimensional being is going to appear on the Orville and recruit her to come into his interdimensional super special space being council.
Okay. You know what's really funny?
And they're going to travel the universe. Charlie,
AKA the Traveler.
Yeah, right. Oh, so we got another Wesley Crusher on our hands.
Yeah.
Hold up. So having seen a few episodes, that's not totally wrong.
Oh God!
Oh wow!
Fuck you, man.
But I'm gonna stop right there, Holmes.
Oh my God!
You're gonna get in trouble, man. They're never gonna let you watch anything advanced again.
And listen, you know what's funny is the first time I saw Ann Winters, I was like, I told Shane, I was like, $50 says Seth has dated her, and I said it like a joke, right? Seth MacFarlane has dated her.
Totally has, I bet.
And then he Googled, he's currently dating her.
Well, that was the same with the security officer from season 1, right?
Yeah.
Like Seth MacFarlane just casts girls he dates in his shows.
Yeah, I mean, she's super hot, but
he is super hot. Yeah.
Well,
I did feel like that explanation of her powers or her abilities, I guess, were a little lax. I do believe that there were, but if she's an important character going forward, then we need a quick crash course, I guess, on the character.
What I'm wondering in relation to Vader's theory is whether or not she's going to become somehow aware of what happened at the end of last season, which was like the alternate timeline and stuff like that. If like she's going to be able to see that stuff and inform the crew about it.
So that's
I think it's predictive modeling. I think that she's a regular human and they didn't explain it correctly. Like, imagine if she has a light dusting of autism and she has an eidetic memory. And so she can, which is what a lot of humans have, not a lot, but humans have. And she can probably just sort of predict the mathematical outcomes because of the way her brain works.
Yeah.
And she happens to be a hyper smoke show 10. So she's winning all the genetic cards now.
So Danny, what did you think of Charlie?
So I actually shared a link in the YouTube chat to about a 7-minute clip from an episode of Cosmos, because I'm a huge Carl Sagan fan. As I'm pretty sure Kadish, I've been trying to get you guys to do a Carl Sagan episode, but nobody else likes Sagan that much. Where he explains,
and yet you were blown away by the black hole stuff I dropped last week.
Not so much blown away. Well, I mean, like, because there's black hole theory. Anyway,
your black hole thing was off. Okay, but let's not
retread that now. But this is about the fourth dimension. So if what Brian is saying is correct, then they're just stupid and they're totally using the wrong verbiage, to explain her ability, because
I thought it was
the fourth dimension is mathematical predicting. That's
if you take
it's actually time.
What's great, that's what I was about to get into, which is why I think
not in computer modeling. Not in computer modeling.
That's
computer
what
modeling
I think.
Is predictive. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, come on now.
My bad. I apologize.
Cool. So the thing I've always loved about Carl Sagan is his ability to explain really complicated shit in a way that a plebeian like me can understand. You know what I mean? And so, if people really want to grasp the concept of the fourth dimension, I highly recommend checking out that video. It's only about 7 minutes. in the point is the fourth dimension is basically time, because we as humans in the third dimension see time as linear, and so the example Carl Sagan uses is like the flat world example. Are you guys familiar? Brian, are you okay? Is he having a seizure?
I know.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, I was like, what the hell?
Sorry, I'm just I was told.
I got you. No, I remembered now. So I think that this will be more like what I think it was Kadish that was saying. It'll be more about time. So it's almost like, so you're saying, or Brian was saying, you think that she has like this light autistic kind of mathematical.
I don't want to derail you, bro, but when they're talking about fourth dimension, they specified computer modeling, and that's the fourth dimension of computer.
They did.
Science.
They did.
Yes, they said computer modeling. So her ability has nothing to do with time, and I'm so sorry to derail you because it's a cool theory, but it has everything to do with predictive modeling.
It's the same thing, because what I was about to say is that I was about to use the word precognition. So it's almost like she taps into the fourth dimension to, like, because time's not linear to her.
It's the science version of that. Like, precognition, when it comes to science, when you take the magic out of it, is just being able to see the universe and math. I like math, and be able to
power
predict.
of math, people.
It's the power of math, people. I like science.
I'm arming us with knowledge.
It's being able to predict via math outcomes. That's what fourth dimension computer modeling is all about, modeling, and it's predictive modeling. That's what that is. And so you're sort of right when it's like, if you wanted to break precognitive abilities down to science, it's being able to see all the pieces, do the math, and say they're all going to end up in these general areas. That's fourth dimension modeling. So
I think we're kind of agreeing with each other. We're just saying it in different ways. Just probably because you're, smarter than me. I do want to say, though, we got 51 people watching us live. Thank you guys so much. Please smash that like button.
Hit the like button.
Really helps us out. But I think, but as far as the character goes now, I love how, like, in wrestling, she's a heel. I love to hate her. She's the
heel. I love the heel character too.
Yeah. She's so, like, I get her motivation, but it was still detestable to me. You know what I mean? And I loved that scene with is it Marcus? Is the other son? There's Ty and Marcus, right? Is that right?
Ty and Marcus. Yeah.
Okay. So when Marcus goes to Charlie and feels that the terrible burden of like, he feels almost responsible for what Isaac did, and she's trying to talk him out of it. And then, like, you have that beat where you see, like, she's realizing, man, I need to stop being an asshole and at the very least help this kid. And I like how they kind of pay that off later, where she, like, turns around and says to Isaac, I didn't do it for you. She did it for Marcus. She did it for Marcus.
Side note, BJ Tanner, the actor that plays Marcus, is really coming into his own.
Yeah. No,
he's no longer a child actor or whatever.
No.
Yeah, I was impressed with him. But that was something else I wanted to disagree with Salty Trekker about. I didn't think the kids looked that much older at all. In fact, I was surprised at how small Ty still was. Like, I feel like I don't know, before the end of this season, I feel like that kid's definitely going to have a growth spurt,
I was wondering if he has, like, some Gary Coleman stuff going on.
Oh, yes.
That kid should be 12 inches taller right now.
Yeah. Right. So but overall, as a character, I like the addition of her. I like that point of view of hers. I think we needed that different point of view for Isaac. I'm excited. I like the tension between her and Mercer. So I mean, I like the character, but I don't like the character. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean?
Well, she's an unlikable character right now, but you like how she's being handled.
Yes, there you go.
She's getting the reaction from you that she's supposed to get.
Exactly, just like a heel in wrestling. Very good, thank you.
There you go.
So let's really quickly talk about where we think the season's going. I know Brian has some insight into this, so we're going to start with him. Brian, where do you think season 3 is going? And I am sticking to my guns about this is the last season, so like they better wow us with what they got coming. But I want to hear what you think.
Scoop's on us, bro. Drop something. Breaking news here. Come on. You can do it.
I'm not gonna do that.
Damn. Okay.
No. So I think that they think it's the last season too, but that doesn't mean it's the last season. So I think you're right, Matt. I think they put all their cards on the table, whatever that phrase is. Like, let's just put it all out there.
Yeah.
Let's just go out with the absolute best possible thing possible, assuming this is the last we're going to be able to operate in this universe. But that doesn't mean that it's over. In fact, and I was the first one to say, look, it's over. The cast has been released. Their contracts are up. Their sets are gone. Seth is leaving Fox. It's over. But then we see stuff like a lot of the cast, their contracts were renewed, but they were renewed. I don't even know if I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to say this, but
well, I don't want you to get in trouble, bro.
It's not. Yeah, a lot of them were renewed for other projects that Seth is working on for Peacock, anyways.
There you go.
So let's say they are no longer at Fox or Hulu, but there's still a lot of these actors are still with Seth, which is sort of incredible. And additionally, Seth was on Adam Carolla and a couple other shows, but specifically on Adam Carolla, he was like, "Look, I'm not out here doing the media rounds because I want like these amazing ratings for the Orville if I didn't think that there was an actual future for the Orville." And it was a really good point he made.
Mm-hmm.
Seth MacFarlane and his company own the Orville. Fox doesn't own it. Who doesn't own it? He is leasing the Orville to them, right? So if Seth and his entire crew, right, most of the crew is now going to Peacock for his other stuff over there, if the numbers come in and the ratings are stellar and this season comes out as I predict to be very energized by the base, then there's no reason that one of the shows that he still owes Peacock that is unnamed just becomes the next Orville. And if you look at the season count on Hulu, it's no longer season 1, 2, and 3. It's season 1, 2, and New Horizons.
Yeah.
Well, usually that change. If you look at shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Supergirl, other shows that have jumped networks, when the name changes drastically like that, it's because they're moving networks and they want to make it clear when the show changes from network to network. So a lot of the cards are pointing to Orville can get a season 4, and the only thing that's going to stop it is if there's a poor reception, because Seth owes Peacock more. Okay, so he announced one show, but there are 3 projects he's working on for Peacock. Only one is announced. So that means his company was given money to work on 3 exclusive shows for Peacock, and he has yet to announce the other 2. I mean, if Orville's not one of those, then why is Seth out there shilling for the Orville right now?
Well,
why is he hitting up every single talk show and late night show and podcast there is?
Yeah, like on it's JP, right? Who does the what is it?
Yeah,
like watching the Orville.
Yeah. Talking the Orville,
yeah, talking the Orville. So he actually got to interview Seth MacFarlane a couple days ago, or he at least released it a couple days ago. And in that interview, Seth MacFarlane says, you know, if the viewership's there, the demand is there, and like, you know, somebody wants to, you know, make it happen, I would love to do it. You know, he's basically saying it's not up to me. You know, like of course
that's what it is. So the reason he's out there
there
shilling for this is he wants the reception to be so high that when he goes to Peacock and goes, "Hey, listen, this is the show I want to do," then he is operating and negotiating from a place of strength because the show is so well loved at where it's at. I believe that from the business side, I think that they really want this season to go well, because if it was truly their last and this is his last show at Fox, then why would he care?
Yeah,
unless he wants it to go well, so he can then sell it to the network that he's currently working for, Peacock.
You keep saying Fox. I thought Disney owned Hulu, not Fox.
Fox, Disney owns Fox, but Fox is still a separate entity. And Hulu, Disney doesn't own all of Hulu. Disney owns most of Hulu.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But that's what I'm saying. And a lot of the science that they're bringing to this first episode and other stuff I've seen, it really is. It reminds me of Trek in the sense, older Trek, when they used to have like a scientific advisor on board, right? To sort of make sense of the science and make it make sense to the hyper nerds. Like we saw with Burke and her fourth dimensional computer modeling thing. And then we see with Jay Lee's character, Lamar, when he's talking about the layers under the layers, he's literally talking about the Morris algorithm, which is hyper deep cut computer science. So in one episode, we got two very unique but very real computer science theories.
Well, it's a program. I used to do the same thing with some websites or at least SQL databases. Like if somebody tries to lock me out and they say they owe me money and stuff, and like I always
yeah. So that's backdooring, right? It's like, but what he was talking about specifically was called Morris stack computing, and it was not just software but also hardware. So you had like a layer of hardware under hardware, and it's something that they theorize is being used in the higher ends of like military tech. But the fact that they were talking about this extremely nerdy topic, and he was breaking it down like Carl Sagan would to Seth to Ed, was just really good.
Yeah.
So there is a chance that we get a season 4, 100%, and it's all about the reception. If the reception's high, then when Seth goes to the Peacock board and he's like, "Look, this is the second show I want to bring that you've already paid me for. Here's the cost. This is what the numbers are. This is what we're doing. This is the people I'm going to bring from Hulu to Peacock." And so he needs a strong reception if he wants to keep it going. I think they do. If he wants to keep it going, he needs a strong reception. So he's negotiating from a place of strength and not, please let me do the Orville.
Yeah, it's such good Star Trek. It really is, and I think there's a lot to do with what Brandon Braga's producer on this, right? I believe from Next Generation, and I'm so glad the Orville's back, and I can't wait to see new episodes. Because
give us your final thoughts on the Orville, Danny.
I'm glad that they got this out of. I think this is they got this out of the way, and I think we're the next episode. Hopefully, Brian knows. I guess should be probably like more space adventure-y and maybe a little bit more lighthearted. I'm not saying it's going to be like Family Guy in space, but I think
it's not lighthearted.
Oh damn! Well then, see,
yeah.
I don't know.
But the third episode is very lighthearted.
Okay,
so it's there.
Okay, but
the second one's not lighthearted.
Okay, well it looked space adventure-y though, right?
It's space adventure.
Yeah, they go to a part of space where they like suit up and all this stuff. But
it's a very good episode.
So I'm so glad to hear that. So no, I'm just glad it's back. I was a huge Orville fan, and they were cool. Like back, like 4 years ago, they would actually interact with you on Twitter. Like, Scott Grimes interacted with me on Twitter, and I almost lost my shit. Like, four some odd years ago.
Yeah.
On Monday there'll be a teaser
podcast.
out for. There'll be a teaser out on Monday, by the way.
Okay.
It explains it. It's very cool.
Yeah. So real quick, Danny, did you have anything more you wanted to say?
No, I just I highly recommend it. If you guys have never heard of the Orville before, go watch seasons 1 and 2.
All right. Matt Vader, what are your final thoughts on the Orville?
Oh, it's a good show. Don't get me wrong from my ranting earlier. Bad Matt likes to come out. I do think this was a strange way to start a new season.
I agree with that.
I didn't have fun with this. I just did not have fun with this episode, guys. I wanted to have a little bit of fun with the start of the new series. So other than that though, I'm gonna watch it. We're gonna talk about it. And I'm hoping that it finds its soul again here really soon, because I don't feel like it has its. I feel like it's missing its comedic soul right now, and because there wasn't anything. It's charm, yeah. This was just it was just too much of a heavy episode for me, and that's just how I feel about it.
No, I can totally respect that, man. I think that if I didn't have my life experiences that I had, I'd probably feel like you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
It's just it was just a weird start for the season. So yeah, that's all I got.
All right, so we got one more super chat.
Super chat.
Fluffy Panda for $2. Does Orville need to step up their game with Strange New Worlds? I don't think so.
No,
they're two very different shows.
Yeah.
And they both do what they do pretty well. So
Yeah.
I don't think that they need to change anything. But real quick before we get out of here, so the chat wanted us to address Top Gun. And they also, I also wanted to talk a little bit about Kenobi Episode 3. So I saved it for the end for Danny to piece out before we get to that, because I don't want him to have a heart attack. But Brian, Danny, did either of you see Top Gun Maverick?
Yes.
I
loved it.
All right. So let's just go around real quick. Matt Vader 74. You had a very emotional reaction to Top
Dude,
Gun
you're
Maverick.
you're just trying to embarrass me right now.
Why don't you share with everyone your take on it?
Dude, I feel like, so you and me, Jude, and my wife went and watched it last Monday.
Oh wow.
And I had an absolutely great time. I feel like, and maybe I'm still stretching this a little bit, but I don't feel any different now than I felt when I left the theater. I feel like it's basically the perfect sequel to a movie.
Perfect legacy sequel.
It was absolutely incredible. I watched Top Gun, the original, for about the 50th time the day before we went and watched the movie, and watching how Maverick just absolutely paid, just how they just completely remade the original movie but completely made a different movie, was just incredible to me. And it all worked. Them throwing Val Kilmer in there for his quick little thing. I loved all the new pilots and just the way it built up to the finale. At the very end, I just started shaking and weeping uncontrollably. And I still to this moment, I don't really understand why or how that happened. I looked at my wife and she looked at me like I was a crazy person. And I looked at her and I said, I don't understand what's happening to me right now. And because the tears were just screaming out of my eyes. And Matt gets up when the credits are rolling and looks at me and acts like I'm a crazy person. And Jude looked at me like I was a crazy person. And I had to go to the bathroom and take a towel and wipe my face off. And it was ridiculous. And
so you do have a heart.
I do have a heart. Bad Matt has a heart, but I don't know why. But then you start looking at all these articles out there about how grown dudes bawling like babies all over the country after watching Top Gun Maverick. So I wasn't alone. Alone.
No, you were not.
Well,
and it's crazy to me. It was just an absolutely amazing movie.
Yeah.
5 stars. I'm giving it 5 stars.
Yeah,
it's one on my list.
Yeah, funny enough, so like when at the end, when there's like the final scene between Rooster and Maverick, where they kind of recall Goose's name and stuff like that. Mentally, I was like fine, but my body started shaking like it was sobbing, and I was like, "What the hell is going on with my body?" It was like it had a mind of its own. But you are right, Matt. This is like. This is textbook how you do a sequel to an original beloved movie. I think a lot of franchises could take a page from this book. Danny, what did you think of Maverick?
I think it was the perfect legacy sequel. And what I mean by that is this Top Gun it was a 30-year-old movie. It's kind of like Ghostbusters Afterlife. I liked Maverick more than I liked that movie. And I liked that movie a lot. And gosh, the scene with where Rooster's playing the piano and doing Great Balls of Fire, like oh my god, that was like choking me up. And then when that scene with Val Kilmer, that was such a good scene. It was like, oh my gosh. And then spoiler alert, when he dies, like you're just like, oh god, it was so good. I really can't say enough good. Like it was so good. I want to see it again. I
think we're gonna go watch it again on Monday.
Hit me up.
My wife has hit me up twice this week with comments about going to see it again, and and that's I use my wife as a barometer for pop culture and movies, because she is not a nerd. She's not like us. And anytime that she wants to go see a movie a second time, there's something special, at least for the general population there, because she doesn't go to movies twice. She doesn't like to go to any movies I go to hardly ever anyway. I have to drag her. And I guilt trip her into going to these Marvel movies and stuff, but she wants to go see it again, and we're probably going to go. So,
well, hey, please hit me up. I promise I'll be on my best behavior, because I'd love to see it again. I really would.
Brian, what did you think of Top Gun Maverick?
It was great. So far in the last year, I've now teared up at 2 movies: Ghostbusters Afterlife and now Top Gun.
Oh, both of them legacy sequels. That's hilarious.
Both of them legacy sequels. Done really well. Such heart, such respect for the IP. I mean, if this is what we're going to be getting now with these like legacy sequels / reboots or whatever they are, sign me up. It's almost like Hollywood went through like 8 years of really not knowing how to make a legacy sequel. To the last 2 legacy sequels I've seen are like, holy, what the is going on, man?
Right? Why am I crying?
Just so much respect given those. I mean, the difference between like Afterlife and like the 2016 are like, wow, night and day.
Yeah.
And so Top Gun, I was worried that it was going to be one of those check the boxes kind of reboots, and it wasn't. It was truly a respectful legacy sequel, and it was very well done.
Did you guys find it funny that the central mission of Top Gun Maverick was basically the Death Star trench run?
Basically,
real life version of that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You have a 2-meter target you got to hit.
And then you got the steep, incline that you got to make at the last minute to get out.
Yeah, and Rooster basically had to use the Force at the end to make that hit.
And then that other dude comes in. I forget his name, but
I got to tell you,
their version of Iceman.
The dogfighting between the F-14 and the 5th generation fighters at the end there, so perfectly set up. But like that was some of the best aerial photography and aerial like dogfighting I've seen ever. The entire time I was watching that, I was like, can you imagine if they did this with Star Wars? If they had this type of story and this type of photography and stuff like that, like how amazing that would be.
Hangman. Thank you, atheist. Hangman was the guy's name I was thinking. Sorry.
All right, so that was our Top Gun discussion. Danny, did you want to sign off, because I wanted to talk a little bit about Obi-Wan?
So here's the thing. I was on Pop Culture Friday, and he asked me on because I guess people think it's funny when I lose my shit. And so I hadn't watched the episode, but he wanted to talk about it. So what he was doing was he was showing clips, because I guess he doesn't care about being demonetized. And I appreciate what he did. He just showed me clips that were palatable, and then he complained about bad stuff and didn't show it to me. So, and then after that, my son made me watch it last night. And I was mad at him for it. So
well, you should be, because it's
I think I can talk.
Did he force you to watch it? Did he pull a weapon out and say,
no,
sit down, Pop?
So he put tape on your eyeballs and tape into your forehead?
He's my son. Look, after my daughter and I used to be super close, and then she started going through puberty and having her period and stuff. So now I'm like nobody to her. So I'm like, when my kid wants, when my other child, when Dorian wants to do something with me, I'm just like, okay, yeah, whatever you want to do. Oh, that's what you want to do? Okay, well, at least I'm going to get to be with you. So, it's kind of, I'm at that stage right now.
That's emotional abuse, Mike.
So there were 2 things I wanted to talk about with episode 3 of Obi-Wan. The first is there's a scene where basically they get stopped at a checkpoint, and Obi-Wan has to kill like 3 stormtroopers, and then 3 more stormtroopers show up, and he just immediately surrenders despite the fact that he's trying to save Leia's life. And it would have been very easy for him to just use a force push to knock those guys down and either shoot them or use his lightsaber to take them out. But you have a new female character who basically saves the day, because Obi-Wan is a pathetic loser who is unable to protect a small child. And that to me just really bothered me, especially considering the fact that they established that he can use the Force in the previous episode. So I wanted to get your guys' take on this. Why is Obi-Wan such a loser who can't use the Force when he needs it the most?
I don't know what you want from me right now, dude.
I thought I could handle this discussion. I'm going to step away for a little bit.
All right.
I don't even know how to answer that.
It's so dumb. It's just dumb. It's just, I don't know what you want. I can't even answer. It's just,
I mean, like if they had used like the Jedi mind trick on the checkpoint stormtroopers, and then the probe shows up, and he's forced to like shoot them and tip his hand, that would have been one thing. It also would have been one thing if like the stormtroopers were like barricaded in different places, and they had like the drop on him, and so like he was forced to surrender. But they were like literally 3 of them right in a row, right in front of him. He just needed to do a force push, knock them down, use his gun to shoot them. And it would have been one thing if like he had surrendered because it's like him, but he's there to protect Leia, who's like this defenseless child. And so the idea that he's just going to like, get down on his hands and knees and give up at that moment without using the Force boggles my mind. Like, what are the makers of this thing thinking and how they're portraying this character? It doesn't make any sense.
He instead of walking around the gate, he had to go turn it off. It's just stupid shit, man. It's just unreal. It's just.
I mean, that would have made sense. That would have made sense if he was going to use the
truck.
Yeah,
but they just started walking past it, like running.
Yeah, why didn't you get in the truck? Okay.
Yeah.
So many things there. Why don't you use the truck? And if you really wanted to show the cool graphics of him like disabling the lightsaber fence, which was cool. Sorry, it's gonna happen again.
That's the wrong franchise.
There you go. Then what you need to do, man, is when you do your post graphics, someone communicate what the story is so they can put the fence all the way into like the mountainside or something, like make it so that it's an actual like obstacle.
Oh my God, I hadn't even thought about that. Fluffy, you're a freaking genius. Absolutely.
Yes. The best is Obi-Wan cutting himself off from the Force and then supposedly having spent the last 10 years trying to commune with Qui-Gon using the Force.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a bad show, guys.
So that was the first thing that really irked me about this episode. The second thing was the showdown with Vader. Not this Vader. We're talking about the actual Darth Vader. So in my review, I made it very clear that in episode 4, when they run into each other on the Death Star, Vader clearly says, "When last we met, I was but the learner. Now I am the master." And it didn't look like he was a learner in this episode. Like he literally was using the Force in ways that like that Obi-Wan never could, and basically wiped the floor with Obi-Wan. Ridiculously so. Yeah. Like it wasn't even a contest. And like I'm watching this entire thing and I'm like, okay, I get what they're trying to do here because this is like the mid-season point. So they want Vader to like kick his ass. So like at the end of the season, when they have their inevitable rematch, Obi-Wan has like, this thing to overcome and defeat Vader and stuff like that. I get that. But this could have been handled so much better than it currently was, that it just boggles my mind, like the build up to this, it was very poorly handled. Obi-Wan was just like incompetently bad. Nothing about this scene rang true to the spirit of Star Wars, especially when you consider episode 4 and their eventual kind of like confrontation in that episode. So I want to get your guys' take on it. Matt Vader, what did you think of the showdown between Obi-Wan and Vader?
I don't even want to talk about this. I don't. It's just it was awful. It was just, I don't know, man. Why do you do this to me? Why do you?
I like to torture you.
Why do you spring this shit on us when we weren't supposed to talk about this show today? I'm angry with you right now.
How dare you?
I know, man. You. It's just. I don't know. It just wasn't good. It wasn't what it should have been. They should never have even met, much less gonna have to meet twice now. So Obi-Wan can be better, I guess. It's just this whole series is just stupid, dude.
I almost feel like this showdown should have been between him and Darth Maul, because Maul has been established to be alive. He's the head of the underworld, which you'd think would have tied in with like his trip to that city in the previous episode.
Yeah.
Dennis Wright for 499. Do you think Obi-Wan showrunners are following the monomyth and they really suck at pacing, or are they killing this myth for their own bad one? I don't think they know what a monomyth is. I don't think they've studied the hero's journey at all. I think that they're just bad writers, bad directors, bad producers, bad all around. Brian, what did you think of the showdown between Vader and Obi-Wan?
It was way too short. It was just too short. Man, it was. And like a lot of people, even let's say you're not a fan, right? But you still would like to see Obi-Wan and Darth Vader go at it one last time. And it was like such a quick fight. Obi-Wan is clearly can't handle Darth Vader. And then the fight's over like instantly and he's trying to burn him or whatever. And it was just so fast. And so hopefully we get another epic scene. I mean, an epic showdown with these two characters. That's what Shane said. Shane's like, oh, well, they don't want to give in the third episode. They don't want to like just, or whatever it is. They don't want to just like throw this amazing fight that everyone wants at you and throw it away. So maybe that's the case. However, the fight was still stupid short. Chick left Leia in the tunnel to go help Obi-Wan for some reason.
She wasn't supposed to do.
Or she wasn't supposed to do. Or Darth Vader is super afraid of the blaster, apparently.
Why couldn't Darth Vader just walk around the fire when Obi-Wan was leaving?
Or why couldn't he use his force power to lift up Obi-Wan and bring him through the fire to him? Or at least force crush the slow moving droid that picked him up and carried him to safety.
Or use the force to part the fire sea or something.
Or extinguish the fire, which he did like literally 2 seconds beforehand.
Literally 2 seconds beforehand. Sorry.
It seemed like there was a bunch of plot. There was a plot devices like, well, she needs to go help Obi-Wan so that Leia can get captured by super fast. Apparently, the Flash.
She can teleport.
She got the teleporting
force teleport.
I was immediately like, how did she get there? Where did that come from?
Okay, so guys, entertain me, please. My son has been laughing his ass off at me for having this conniption off screen, and he just wants to say one thing to you guys. Well, I don't know what it is, but please entertain me. Here you go, buddy.
Okay.
Here. Be quick. Hurry.
What's your Darth Vader was pretty badass in some scenes, though. Yes, the show is bad. I'm agreeing with him. But you gotta admit, Darth Vader was pretty bad. He was acting like a toddler too. Last night was that's pretty cool.
I mean, Darth Vader's always badass. That's what makes him a classic villain.
True.
But the show that he's being used in right now is terrible.
Oh yeah,
and I like that they made a big deal about Hayden Christensen coming back. It wasn't even Hayden Christensen in the outfit. He's too short. They had to get a stand-in for him. So it was James Earl Jones doing the voice. It was a stand-in. I don't even know where Hayden Christensen comes into this at all.
Yeah,
in the tank when they were putting him together, that was his face and stuff.
Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
All right, anything else, buddy?
You couldn't even tell.
No, the show's pretty bad.
Say bye. All right. Cool.
Yeah, show's terrible.
All right, well, now I'm proud of him now. Okay. All right.
All right. Real quick. Let's go around. Final thoughts on Obi-Wan Episode 3, Vader.
That's all I got.
Danny?
Do you really even have to ask? I mean, come on. No, this is the worst thing. Please don't make me watch. Yes. Worse than Picard.
Wow.
That's the tagline.
Brian.
Wow.
I think it's a wonderful return to science fiction.
Oh my God.
I can't wait to see more of this, some clever, slow moving universe. No, I'm having a hard time with it.
I think we made a comment in Discord about how I would rather watch a show watching Uncle Owen sell water.
That would be a really good show.
Yeah, that would be a good show.
Like him having to sell his water to like unscrupulous people in Mos Eisley.
Yeah,
I'd watch that.
I would too. That'd be better.
Joel Egerton's awesome.
Yeah,
I love him as Uncle Owen.
The Adventures of Uncle Owen.
Yeah. To see that.
Him having to deal with a bratty Luke.
Yeah. Come on.
Let's do that.
But Uncle Owen, I wanted to go to back and get the talking station.
It doesn't matter what you want.
Power converters.
Power converters looking for.
I want to go kill some womp rat.
I honestly don't know what Lucasfilm is thinking over there. Like this should have been a slam dunk, right? It should have been a home run. Yeah. This was the easiest layup they ever had. Everyone loves Obi-Wan and Ewan McGregor's performance as that character. This should have been such an easy win.
You know what? I bet you those scripts that Kathleen Kennedy didn't like and shredded and had them remake were probably awesome.
Yeah, we probably would have loved it.
I bet the original show was really fucking good.
Because now they have to make Obi-Wan a simp. He's got to be saved by a girl. Yeah. He even gets like the girl. I didn't know this in one of the clips that Gary showed me, but like one of the stormtroopers was a girl. Like I didn't like. I mean, like not that ever. Yeah. Has that ever happened before? Is that? Yeah. No. You know, and we got like this what's her, the third sister. She's definitely gonna, probably save Obi-Wan's ass and be the big hero of the day at the end of it. I mean, she's very, very telegraphed at this point. I just terrible. So terrible.
I need a squeeze ball.
Yeah,
terrible.
Right?
Can we end? Can we be over?
They also kind of broke the canon with killing off the Grand Inquisitor, right? I mean,
he's not. Yeah,
maybe they'll bring him back. I don't know.
His debut is 5 years from now in the timeline.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what Lucasfilm is thinking, but they continue to just screw the pooch left and right with this franchise, and I'm not looking forward to episode 4. I'll tell you that much. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for joining us to talk about the state of sci-fi. We had 2 really good science fiction episodes, and then a great legacy sequel, and a horrible episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Matt Vader 74, where can people find you on the social media?
Yeah, right here at Matt Vader 74 on all of the social media things, mostly Twitter, and here on this channel.
Danny, where can people find you?
Right there on all the socials, on Salty Nerd Discord.com. I getting a little bit more back into that, and here on Saturdays, Pop Culture Minefield on Fridays, and once a quarter, I think, on the podcast. So,
all right. And Brian, where can people find more about you?
The Popcast, youtube.com/the Popcast, and youtube.com/the Popcast Live, and Twitter Popcast Guys.
Real quick, everyone on the panel, their YouTubes are linked in the description. And we have from Chris Retzlaff for $5. Thank you, sir. Great talk today, guys. Danny, stop writing a better show. And Andor is going to be great. Stay salty. Andor does actually look pretty good.
It does, yeah.
I got to admit. And the guy who...
I'm sorry. I'm looking forward to going to Space Tijuana. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Well, Tony Gilroy, the guy who basically saved Rogue One by writing that awesome third act, is the one behind it. So I'm hoping that it's good. But again, I have no faith in Lucasfilm. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in today. Tune in next Saturday as we talk about more Strange New Worlds and the Orville and possibly Obi-Wan if Danny's heart can take it. I think this Thursday on the Salty Nerd channel for my live stream, we're going to be talking about Stranger Things. So that's not 100% certain, but that's.
I haven't watched. There's so much TV. I haven't watched Stranger Things or The Boys yet. It's like,
we have another cool interview coming up later this week, right?
Yes, and this coming Wednesday, we've got an interview with John Iver Helgaker, who is the showrunner and creator of the show Norsemen on Netflix, which is one of our favorite shows.
Oh, wow.
So we got to sit down and talk to him and pitch him our idea for Viking Cop and all that good stuff. So that'll be coming out this Wednesday. And then on Friday, we've got our main show, which is Campy Space Horror, where we talk about critters, killer clowns from outer space, and the 1980s The Blob. So that should be a lot of fun. Anyway, guys, thank you all for showing up, and stay salty, my friends.